From the Latin base co, meaning together with, and stella, meaning star, the word constellation means a grouping of stars.
So what are constellations? There's actually two answers. To you and me, a constellation is a pattern of bright, highly visible stars, like Orion. But to astronomers, constellations are specific regions in the sky around those constellations. An asterism, on the other hand, is a popular grouping of stars easily recognized by the casual observer. Asterisms, which may be part of a recognized constellation, are not constellations themselves. The Big Dipper is one of the most well-known and easily spotted collection of stars in the Northern Hemisphere. And although it's often mistaken to be a constellation, it's merely an asterism. It consists of 7 bright stars and is part of the constellation Ursa Major, or the Great Bear. Astronomers have divided the celestial sphere into 88 of these constellations. The celestial sphere is how we see the universe from our position on Earth. It's basically an imaginary ball with us at the center and stars sprinkled all over it. Each one of the sphere's 88 constellations contains thousands, maybe even millions of visible stars and galaxies. Sort of like the way America is divided up into 50 states. It makes it easier to describe where something's located. Like if an astronomer said she found something new in Orion, other astronomers will know which area to check in the sky. The stars in all constellations are part of the Milky Way galaxy, same as us, but they're all not necessarily close to one another. In fact, a constellation's stars are sometimes thousands of light years apart. The pattern depends on our perspective looking outwards from Earth. If you traveled away far from Earth, the shapes would gradually come apart. If you lived in another solar system, the sky would look completely different. In fact, in Earth's southern hemisphere, the sky is different. You can see some constellations that are not visible in the northern hemisphere, and other constellations appear upside down. The Earth's rotation keeps constellations on the move. They rise in the east and set in the west every night, the same way the sun rises and sets each day. On top of that, our view of the universe slowly changes as the Earth revolves around the sun. For example, the constellation Cygnus can only be seen from May to January, while Orion is visible from November to February. The exceptions are circumpolar constellations. They're located above Earth's poles, so they don't rise or set each night. They're visible all year round. Ursa Minor, or the Little Bear, is one of these. It contains Polaris, which is known as the North Star. It's been used since ancient times to point out directions to the north, because it's always visible year-round. 12 to 13 of the best-known constellations are in the same plane as Earth's orbit around the Sun. These zodiac constellations are found in the ecliptic, the narrow band of the sky the Sun travels across the sky each day. Ancient astronomers used the zodiac as a calendar and also a star map. Where did the constellations get their names from? One of the most active identifiers of constellations were the Greeks. Throughout the years of Greek influence, they identified a total of 48 constellations that are still recognized today. It's through their mythology that they named these constellations. In ancient times, constellations represented some kind of picture. For example, Pisces is supposed to look like two fish tied together by the tail, while Ursa Major was a large bear. Usually the pictures were associated with myths. Most of the constellations we know originally came from ancient Greece, Rome, and the Middle East. So here's where the story gets good. I'm not sure if y'all knew this, but the Greek gods were a bit of a wild bunch. Their legends usually gave way to a rhyme and reason for everything, including how the constellations came to be. So sit back and relax, and I'll tell you some of the scandalous stories coming straight to you from Mount Olympus. The majority of the stories I'll be sharing with you today have to do with Zeus, the god of all gods, and his extremely jealous wife, Hera, who also happens to be his sister. Now, Hera had every right to be jealous because Zeus had hundreds of girlfriends, both gods and mortals. Zeus's adulterous behavior resulted in many godly and heroic offspring, including Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Hermes, Persephone, Perseus, Hercules, and Helen of Troy. Capricorn, the sea goat. According to ancient Greek legends, Cronus was told by the oracle that one day one of his sons would grow up to be stronger than he and would eventually kill him in battle. In order to keep this from happening, Cronus had every baby boy born to him as a son killed. Some legends said he would swallow them when they were born. Knowing of this curse, Zeus's mother gave him to some sea nymphs, with instructions to take him to a faraway place where Cronus could not find him and raise him there. However, sea nymphs could not produce milk, so they brought a very special goat, Almathea, to nurse him. As Zeus grew older, Almathea also became his playmate. One day, Zeus was playing with Almathea and broke off one of her horns. Zeus took this as a sign that he was supposed to break off his relationship with Almathea and the sea nymphs and go fight his father, Cronus. Zeus gave the horn to the sea nymphs and Almathea, telling them that as they had always provided for his needs, so now this horn, which was now a magical horn, would always provide them all the food and drink they would ever need. Zeus then left them to go fight Cronus, his cruel father. Zeus defeated Cronus, and according to one legend, as Cronus fell to the ground, his head split open and out stepped the brothers of Zeus that Cronus had once swallowed. Zeus was now the king of the gods, and one of his first acts was to place the constellation Capricorn in the heavens in honor of Almathea and the sea nymphs who had hidden and taken such Andromeda, the chained lady. Cassiopeia, Andromeda's mother, boasted that she was the most beautiful woman in the world, even more beautiful than the gods. Poseidon, the brother of Zeus and the god of the seas, took great offense to that statement, for he had created the most beautiful beings ever in the form of his sea nymphs. In his anger, he created a great sea monster, Cetus, pictured as a whale, to ravage the seas and sea coast. Since Cassiopeia would not recant her claim of beauty, it was decreed that she must sacrifice her only daughter, the beautiful Andromeda, to the sea monster. So Andromeda was chained to a large rock projected out into the sea and was left there to wait the arrival of the great sea monster, Cetus. As Cetus approached Andromeda, Perseus arrived, some say on the winged sandals that were given to him by Hermes. He had just killed Medusa and was carrying her severed head in a special bag. When Perseus saw the beautiful maiden in distress, like a true champion, he went to her aid. Facing the terrible sea monster, he drew the head of Medusa from the bag and held it out so the sea monster would see it. Immediately, the sea monster turned to stone. Perseus freed the beautiful Andromeda, claiming her as his bride. He took her home as his queen to rule. Taurus the bull. Europa was the beautiful daughter of Agenor, king of Phoenicia. It was said that Europa was so beautiful that Zeus fell madly in love with her. So Zeus changed himself into a snow-white bull and mingled with the herds of Agenor, for which Europa was caring. Europa was charmed by the beauty of this great white bull, and she began to stroke its neck and pat its shoulders. Finally, she climbed onto its broad back. The bull immediately began to move across the Sea of Crete, where he, Zeus, resumed his divine form right before Europa's startled eyes. Zeus had successfully kidnapped Europa. To commemorate his feat, he placed the picture of Taurus among the constellations, and on Earth, a continent was named for Europa. Virgo, the Virgin. Virgo was Persephone, the beautiful daughter of Zeus and Demeter, goddess of fertility of the earth. One spring day, as Persephone was wandering out into the fields, Hades, the god of the underworld, grabbed her and took her down into the underworld to become his wife. But this stubborn young goddess refused to accept her captivity, refusing to eat or even speak to Hades. He tried to give her jewels, fancy clothes, and even slaves to entertain her, but she still would not speak to him. When Demeter found out that Hades had abducted her daughter and that Zeus, who had been bribed by Hades, would not intervene, she became so angry that she refused to care for the crops and the plants of earth. A great famine followed. Crops failed, and animals and people began to die. Finally, Zeus gave in and told Demeter that she could have her daughter back. However, under the ancient law of abode, if Persephone had accepted food, she would have been considered a guest, not a captive, and would have to stay in the underworld as Hades' bride. Demeter immediately sent Hermes on his winged sandals to fetch Persephone. But before Hermes could get there, an evil man who hated Demeter took a sweet red pomegranate, broke it in half, and offered some of it to Persephone, who had grown very hungry by this time. Before she could stop herself, she had eaten 6 of the sweet, juicy seeds. When Hermes arrived, Hades claimed Persephone as his bride under the law of abode because she had eaten 6 of the pomegranate seeds. When Demeter heard this, she declared that no crops or flowers would ever grow if her daughter became the bride of death. Zeus declared a compromise. Each year, Persephone would have to spend 6 months with Hades because she had eaten 6 of the seeds. The other 6 months she would spend with her mother. Both Hades and Demeter had to agree because Zeus was the king. But Demeter also kept her promise. During the 6 months when her daughter had to be in the underworld with Hades, no crops would grow. And the spring, when Persephone returned, the flowers and crops would grow again. In Greek mythology, Zeus had many human girlfriends, but his favorite was the beautiful nymph Callisto. His secret visits to Earth to meet with her only added to Hera's jealousy and determination to get revenge against these women. One day, as Zeus was walking through the forest with Callisto, he saw his wife Hera coming. Unable to hide Callisto in time, he turned her into a large brown bear. When jealous Hera arrived, she saw only Zeus walking by himself through the forest. She looked around, searching for someone with Zeus, but she saw only an old brown bear. She still did not trust Zeus and insisted that he return to her to Mount Olympus. Zeus did not want to go because he wanted to change his girlfriend Callisto back into her human form before leaving, but Hera insisted. So Zeus went with Hera, leaving Callisto as a large brown bear. Unknown to Zeus, Acris, Callisto's son, who was a great hunter, was out in the woods hunting that day. As chance would have it, he saw this great big brown bear. He put an arrow to his bow, took careful aim, and he shot that great bear through the heart. Right before his startled eyes, Acris watched the bear as it died change back into the form of his mother Callisto with an arrow through her heart. Acris began to cry loudly for his mother and what he had done to her. When he realized that Zeus had changed her into the bear, he grew even angrier. Zeus, fearing that Hera might hear the cries, went down to earth to try to appease Acris. In order to hide what he had done, Zeus changed Callisto back into a bear and placed her form as a constellation into the northern sky as the Big Dipper. He then changed Acris into the small bear, the Little Dipper. As Acris was being placed into the sky, he turned to look at his mother, Callisto, now the Big Dipper. That's why the Little Dipper is curved towards the Big Dipper, so that Acris can watch over his mother, Callisto, for all of eternity. Orion, the Great Hunter. With his great skill as a hunter, Orion provided meat each day for the gods' meals. One day, Artemis, the moon goddess and goddess of the hunt, asked if she could accompany Orion on his daily hunt. He readily agreed. The next day, as they were hunting in the woods, they saw a deer. Orion carefully fitted an arrow in his bow and shot. So sure was his shot that the deer died instantly, which pleased Artemis greatly. At dinner that evening, Artemis told everyone, even Zeus, of Orion's great ability with the bow. All of the praise extremely pleased Orion, who vowed to impress Artemis even more the next day. Arising at dawn, Orion proceeded again to the forest where he shot every single animal he found. He then made a large pile of these animals near the door to Artemis's house. Then, knocking on her door, he asked her to come outside and to see the great surprise he had for her. Upon seeing the great pile of dead animals, Artemis was horrified, for you see, Artemis was also the protector of animals and punished those who killed more than they could eat. In her anger, she stomped her foot on the ground, and out of the dust came a great scorpion, which stung Orion on the heel, causing him to die in great pain and agony. In honor of great service to the gods, Zeus placed his constellation in the sky. Scorpio was also placed into the sky on the opposite side of the world from Orion, so they could avoid any further conflict. It was also placed in the sky to remind all of us that it's okay to kill animals for food, but it's wrong to kill animals just for the fun of it. Cancer the crab. According to Greek mythology, Hercules, Zeus's son, was given 12 labors by Hera, Zeus's wife, which each could test his strength and courage. Jealous Hera hoped that these 12 labors would prove to Zeus that Hercules was unworthy of his love. The second of these 12 labors was to kill the Hydra, which had a long snake or dragon-like body and 9 heads. If anyone succeeded in cutting off one of its heads, it would grow another one in its place. So it was virtually indestructible. In order to make sure that Hercules failed at this task, Hera was very jealous of Zeus's love for Hercules. Hera sent a large crab to grab Hercules by the heel and distract him while he was fighting the Hydra. During the fight with the Hydra, Hercules, who took his nephew Iolaus along, would cut off one of the heads of Hydra, and Iolaus would sear the neck with a torch so that a new head could not grow back. Fearing that Hercules might indeed defeat the Hydra, Hera sent a crab to grab Hercules' foot. However, as the crab grabbed his foot, Hercules stomped down with his other foot and crushed the crab. He then cut the final head off Hydra, and Iolaus seared it, thus defeating the Hydra and Hera. To honor Hercules' great victory and to remind Hera of her failure, Zeus placed the constellation of Cancer the crab in the sky.